Welcome, everybody. Tonight is Monday, November 27th. It is 7 o'clock p.m. We're at the Arlene Bush Boardroom, School District 271, Bloomington, Minnesota, School Board meeting. All board members are present, minus Dick Bergstrom. And this evening, for our Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to ask Sergeant First Class Darren Stowe and Staff Sergeant Ralph Blystone to join us at the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you all for having us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for doing that. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that brings us to recognition of students, staff, and public. And I will now invite Jim Sorum to give us some introductory remarks and introduce our guests this evening.
Chairman, Superintendent, fellow board members, it gives me great pleasure and somewhat an honor to be here too tonight. As a veteran of the Navy, we've been doing a lot of things this past month to recognize the military and our veterans that have served. And because there were so many things happening right around the first part of the month, we've decided that we're going to have a special night tonight whereby we can introduce, acknowledge, and recognize a few of our active service personnel and veterans to share in this. To highlight a few of the things that have taken place in our schools over the years, here's a few examples. In some of our elementary schools, students gathered information about family and friends who are veterans and displayed the information in the hallways at their schools. In the middle schools, one of our counselors at Olson Middle School is in the Army National Guard and has served overseas. He has worked with students that have family members that have served our country also. And one of our middle school teachers, father, a Vietnam and Desert Storm veteran, has come to speak to the 8th grade social studies class. Some of the social studies 6th and 7th graders have worked with the VFW every year for the Patriots Pen Essay Contest. They go to a pizza party and a dinner led by the VFW every December and January related to the event and hear speakers there. And in our high schools, from time to time, veterans have come to speak to social studies classes. Now, what's interesting about some of these is in our middle schools and in our early elementary schools, there are military active duty members that don't necessarily want to be acknowledged or recognized. They're happy enough to be teaching and working in our schools, but they don't need the extra acknowledgement that they want to do. Something about a privacy factor or something like that. I don't know exactly how that applies. But we've also, at Hillcrest Community School, a father of one of those students who was serving in the Army presented the school with a flag inside of a plaque that read, "Soldiers of the 2nd 147th Helicopter Battalion, U.S. Army, flew this flag over the headquarters at Camp Buring in Kuwait on April 2nd, 2015. And on November 9th, we always have an annual recognition dinner, lunch, or breakfast on Veterans Day or the day before Veterans Day, usually presented by or sponsored by the city of Bloomington. This year, it was hosted by the Northwestern Health Sciences University and the city of Bloomington. And it was a great turnout on November 9th. There were all kinds of veterans from all the various wars, Korean, Vietnam, World War II, and they all must have been, I'd say 500-600 people all together, and their families were there. And it was really a touching event. As we were having the dinners, and the songs were being sung for each of the branches of the service. They had some of the students from Oak Grove Middle School had written personal letters of thank you that we passed out to the veterans and their families too. So it was quite a touching event to see that. At the same time, this is our pictures of our flag raising ceremonies that we participated in on Veterans Day that Friday. And Sergeants Blystone and Stowe were members as we went around to the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools all on that morning. And as you can see from some of them pictures, it was such a colorful event, seeing all the elementary kids, the whole school, elementary kids came out, and various social studies classes and at the middle school and the high schools came out at their schools too. We wouldn't want to have all 800 of them come out in the day because it would take us about 3 hours to get through herding them back into class. But one of the other exciting things that happened that I'm a part of, and it's been sponsored by the city pretty much, is Beyond the Yellow Ribbon Committee. It's reaching out to help veterans. Resources are often available, but sometimes it takes a helping hand to make sure that the veterans do receive assistance. A lot of times, they don't come forward and say, I need help. But sometimes the families need the help while the spouses or the parents are both maybe serving overseas. And so it's just an organization that we've started, and it's been very successful, and we want to honor so many of our returning veterans who need a little bit of a sentence, a little bit of a remembrance and connection. What we have done also with that group is to have the Workforce Center has a special group that works with the returning veterans to offer assistance for job finding and for interviews with different companies. So it's been very successful that way also. And we've gotten donations from a lot of different organizations to help us with it. And those are just some of the things, and you've seen from some of the slides that we've had that we have just enjoyed this past November with our schools honoring our veterans and our servicemen. And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of them in our schools now, but some of them don't necessarily like to be recognized. But at this time, I'd like to invite Tim Carlson, Jefferson social studies teacher and coach, to talk about the Wounded Warrior Project that we have done with the Jefferson kids. Tim?
Well, first of all, I don't know if this is thank you for inviting me. I get really excited when I'm able to talk about what we do with the Wounded Warrior Project. I'm going to try and not be a teacher or a coach because I'll start moving and my hands start going, and I won't yell at anybody, I promise. But this is something that we started. We started working with the Wounded Warrior Project about 8 years ago, and it started through a national coaching clinic that I attended where coaches all throughout the country, in 1 week, were going to try and raise money for a Wounded Warrior Project. And we participated 8 years ago, and it was such a big deal then that we've continued on. And we call that week Raise 'em Up Week. And it's something that, as I thought about it, and we talk about community service in class and so on, and throughout my life, which seems like going a long time, I've tried to find that community service project that I can really connect with. And I've tried other things, and I enjoy doing other things, but the Wounded Warrior Project was something that I really connected with. And before too long, I'll get worked up. I get emotional when I start talking about this. But we call it Raise 'em Up Week, and the Wounded Warrior Project, for those of you who don't know, its mission is to honor and empower our wounded warriors. And we have, during that week, that Raise 'em Up Week, we have speakers come to class, whether it be veterans. Dan Hansen of Team Minnesota from the Wounded Warrior Project comes out. And what's really neat to me is when we have former football players who are currently serving come back and talk to our kids. And that's a neat experience. And it's something that we've been recognized. WCCO TV has recognized us, the Minnesota Football Coaches Association. has recognized the things that we do. But in our 8 years of working for the Wounded Warrior Project, this last fall, we were able to go over the $26,000 mark in money raised for this organization. And it's still, to this day, you know, I register with the WWP, and so my name is on there, and Jefferson Football is on their website, and I get emails from people. And yes, my players get this because it's hard for me to go and for too long. And I have moms emailing me, thanking me. I had a mother whose son is in Walter Reed Hospital. And the Wounded Warrior Project had done so much for her son that she wanted to take time and thank me. I'm like, no, don't thank me. This is so little compared to what your son has done. This is just a little thing that we can do to give back. And we do it in different ways. Throughout the week, we have a letter writing campaign. Local businesses contribute. Alumni contributes. We get it through our alumni page. I see Tom Ringdahl's here. I appreciate Tom because as we do our Inside Jefferson Football show, we kind of make a big deal that week prior to plug the event. I want to thank Mark and Mariah Hultgren. Many of you know the Hultgrens, who gave us great deals on T-shirts that we sell during the week. Our football team will sell them during the week, and then at halftime of our game, that's when our 9th and 10th grade players will go and collect, just kind of pass the bucket at halftime. And so it's a real team effort. It's a family, what I say, our football family effort. Now, as our parents come in, our players come in, they all want to be part of designing the T-shirt now that we sell at lunch. I want to thank John Anderson, head football coach at Kennedy. John coached with us for a few years, and when he took the head job at Kennedy, he was so fired up by what we were doing that Kennedy now does the same thing. So now our Raise 'em Up week is always the Jefferson-Kennedy game. And, you know, I always tell people we have a great rivalry with Kennedy as far as football teams, but it's a good rivalry. It's a friendly rivalry. It's a fun rivalry. And this is a way that we come together as two schools within the same city to do something really, really positive. So I want to thank John as well. The last thing before I go is we just kind of settled this in the last week, but I'm excited this summer. Our football team is going to be helping out with the Team Minnesota Wounded Warrior bike ride. Soldier ride this summer. So we're really excited about that. My players don't know. I'm sure they're all watching the school board meeting on TV at home. So we're excited about that this summer. It's something that, you know, as long as I'm around, we're going to be working with the Wounded Warrior Project because these are for people who have done so much for us. So again, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Tim. It's a great opportunity to see that stadium so crowded with the Kennedy Jefferson football game. I know Tom Ringdahl and his camera crew have a very difficult time trying to capture as many emotional outbursts that they have during that halftime show. But it has worked out really good. At this time, I'd like to call our student representatives, Ethan Skophammer and Jackson Damagala from Jefferson, Ethan's from Kennedy, to say a few words.
All right, so me and Jackson are extremely humbled to extend our gratitude to recognize all those who have served for this great nation. It's truly amazing how lucky we are to have these heroes in our community. All the men and women who serve for our nation have to sacrifice a lot to guarantee our freedom. And with all this division in our country in recent times, one of the things that seems to hold us together is our appreciation towards the active service men and women, along with our veterans. People can vary completely, but the glue that keeps us together is the support for our troops. And every person in this country knows someone who has been affected in the military. I have watched many of my teammates and a lot of my schoolmates and family members. They all have gone and served our country. And so within that smaller community, it has been widely recognized that everyone is proud of every single other person within the group. So that's just within my little community. And on a larger note, our larger community, the VFW, has been a huge supporter of Bloomington athletics. Well, not only Bloomington athletics, but a lot of stuff. But it has impacted me because growing up, Kennedy hockey has not financially been super stable, and I know that with the VFW's help and Legion, they've always been consistent in helping us out. And my dad, who has been the past president for Kennedy youth hockey, says that VFW is the reason Kennedy isn't like in the hole. And they are on a successful path, and I just kind of like to stir a little things up. We have more youth hockey members than Jefferson. I know that VFW, along with Legion, does a lot more within our community, like assisting other programs. And I know the VFW does a lot to help Kennedy's food pantry. And I know that with Jackson, I know that they do a lot at Jefferson to do a lot of supporting financially and just emotionally. With all that, this has built a strong community for all of Bloomington, which is ultimately the main goal of what everyone is trying to get to, is just a community full of people who want to help each other. And so with this community of full of amazing human beings, I hope that appreciating all of those who are here today that have served, and all those who are watching who have served, I hope that this just shows a fraction of how much everyone else in this community appreciates you guys. With all the schools that have come together, like the elementary schools making all these beautiful posters, and the letters that have been written, everything that I've done growing up, I know that we just want to pass our love for you guys. And so, yeah, thank you.
We're here today to honor our heroes, from their courage and their dedication. We say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of all the heroes who join us in this group today, for a person who can't help but feel awed by their enormity today of what we see from them. Thank you so much for what you contribute to this community, especially at Jefferson with the Wounded Warrior Project, which really unites both schools for a week of football, and from the financial benefits that we get from boosters that also support our sports teams. Thank you so much for what you do for our country. We're very grateful. Thank you.
These are two high school representatives on the board. A few years ago, we made a policy where we would have a representative from each of the schools. So aren't they good examples of what we have in our schools now as they serve with the board? Ethan has been on 2 years now, so he's getting to be real familiar with it. I suppose in another couple of years, he might even want to run for school board. So watch out. Thank you, guys. You want to stay up here for a little bit? I just want to call up, and as Ethan had mentioned, we have letters from Poplar Bridge Elementary School students, posters from Washburn Elementary School students, a dog tag from Olson Middle School students specifically for our flag raising team, and then we have cards from Jefferson students. So if each of you will grab two of those packages on the side, I want to introduce our honored guests, Commander Rick Warren from the Earl C. Hill American Legion Post. Come on up, Rick. Commander Doug Dorfler, Everett McClay Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 1296. Staff Sergeant Ralph Blystone from the Army National Guard over at our armory, and Sergeant First Class Darren Stowe from the Army National Guard, and Lieutenant Colonel Jamie Lindman, Air Force National Guard. If you would come forward, and we'll get some get pictures of you if you want to stand. How about right there? Yeah, that's good. We'll get a couple pictures, and then passing out And just to mention a few, as Ethan had mentioned earlier, we have a lot of families that have a lot of relatives in the service or veterans of the service. And we're fortunate to have Rick Warren, who has a daughter who teaches here at Oak Grove Middle School. And I'm fortunate, I have a daughter who teaches Oak Grove Middle School also. So it's a big family get-together when we have some of these sessions too. So now that you've received your special awards, if you want to come up and say something, we'll allow that.
Rick Warren with the American Legion. Thank you for having me here tonight. You know, children and youth is one of the Legion's 4 pillars, because our theory on that is if the students get their basic needs while they're in school, hopefully they'll enjoy school and they'll finish it and they'll become better citizens. So, thank you.
Good evening, Doug Dorfler, Everett McClay, VFW. Just want to thank you for inviting me here tonight to represent the VFW. VFW originally started out to support veterans that came in after veterans came back. You know, unfortunately, we're always going to have people coming back, and they need support. That's what we started out as. As the years went by, we expanded and got into community, and thanks to charitable gambling, we've been able to support the Bloomington athletic programs, which we enjoy doing and helping out the kids. The other thing the VFW got involved in was the Patriots Pen and Voice of Democracy program. We feel strongly that we have to keep our young students involved with, I'm not a great speaker, but to keep our history and everything in place, because if you don't teach it, you don't tell people about it, they forget about it. And we don't want that to happen. So thank you again for inviting me, and hopefully we can continue to support the school programs for years to come. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Ralph Blystone with the Minnesota National Guard here in Bloomington. We appreciate your support that you guys have given us. I enjoyed doing the flag raising, and I look forward to helping out again next year. Hopefully it won't be as cold as it was. It was pretty bitter for a little bit there, but I appreciate what you guys have done for us, and thank you.
Hi, Sergeant First Class Darren Stowe, Minnesota National Guard. I also did the flag raising with Sergeant Blystone on Veterans Day, which was surprisingly colder than it is today. But again, I want to reflect on what Sergeant Blystone said. Thank you again for allowing us that opportunity to go around all the schools. I feel bad for some of the little kids that get to go out there and, don't really understand what's going on, but they get to be a part of it. Thank you, Deb, for everything you do in helping organize that. It really is easy for us to call up 3 small teams of people. It really takes nothing. Deb really does the hard work, setting it all up, getting the schedule ready for us. It's just kind of on autopilot, so thank you, Deb. And then I also want to take an opportunity to thank the VFW and the American Legion. As a former VFW commander, I understand how hard it is to get service members to continue to serve in those roles after they get out of the service. And it really is a small organization of active members that do what they need to do to help support these guys. So thank you as well for everything you do, and continue to support their activities as they push them out into the schools. Thanks.
Lieutenant Colonel Jamie Linman from the Minnesota Air National Guard, so also National Guard, but on the air side. And I'm based right at the airport, Fort Snelling, as most people know it. But yeah, I really appreciate all the support. This is great having the kids write the letters. And we're all citizens, or at least the 3 of us, we're citizen soldiers being in the Guard. The majority Guard members have a full-time job on the outside, and and they volunteer 1 week a month and a couple weeks a year, along with deployments, but they stay trained. And we are engaged in our communities, and that's why I think we all love giving back. The one thing I do that I enjoy doing every year is I come to Oak Grove and on Career Day. So I talk to the kids and tell them not so much about the Air National Guard, but just about joining the military. And if kids are interested, I tell them the pros and cons about joining the military and as a possible career opportunity. But I also wanted to say that I think it's great that Bloomington is a yellow ribbon community. I know that I'm not sure what the statistics are, but I think less than half of the cities are yellow ribbon communities. I know you were involved with that a few years back, but being a Guard member here in Minnesota is where we started it. The Guard in Minnesota started it, and coincidentally, the director, Annette Kuiper is her name. She's an old Bloomington Lincoln graduate. So I know she was, and I've got to know her, but she was very excited to get Bloomington involved as a yellow ribbon community, and it's just another way to connect with the military, and so that it enables us to give back. And I did want to give a couple little plugs for the Air National Guard, at least my base. One thing I was going to mention is if you haven't been out there, we do have an outstanding air museum. Whether it's a field trip for kids, and we're not too far from the base camp. I know a lot of the 5th and 6th graders in the community go to the base camp, but there's a great air museum. It's actually a fantastic air museum there that I encourage you to visit. Anyone can go visit with your ID or your driver's license. And the other thing I was going to plug was we also have a program called Starbase, which is a youth educational program originally designed for inner city students, but it's a week-long program for 4th through 6th graders, where it's this nationally funded, federally funded, I should say, and we're 4th through 6th graders, and typically it's for socioeconomically diverse students. But I know we have, I think, several schools that would probably qualify, and I don't believe that Bloomington's been involved, but there are several inner-city Minneapolis, St. Paul schools that have been involved with that. And if you'd like to catch me afterwards and talk to you, I can tell you a little bit more about it. But again, thanks for having us.
I'm glad you fellows were up here talking about it, because otherwise I would have had to talk about all those programs. But we have a STEM program here in our schools, and the STAR-based project is one of those that if you see the results of that, it's amazing what some of these students come up with working in teams and develop all kinds of interesting engineering accomplishments. So once again, thank you for being here tonight, and if you'd all join me in one final round of standing ovation for our military. Mr. Chair, that concludes my portion of
All right, well,
this.
thank you, and thank you, everybody, once again for being here. I'm so happy that our school district takes part in events like this and public recognition. It's funny because I find myself starting to talk like my dad now. So I remember going to the baseball games with him, and when the national anthem started playing, he'd hit me in whatever I was doing. He's like, stop, be quiet, pay attention, look at the flag, and I was always looking at him like, what's the big deal? And it was funny because just recently I was at a baseball game with my oldest son, and the national anthem starts playing, and we're in line for food. And I'm like, hit him, stop talking. He's like, oh, whatever, what do I have to do? I was like, take off your hat. And he's like, how many times do I have to take off my hat? And I said, you take off your hat every time. Your nephew or your cousin Yoel did not join the Marines so that way you could stand here with your hat on and disrespect him while they're playing national anthem. So I'm glad that we have our elementary students at all the flag raising ceremonies and teaching them early on what it means to be a good citizen and respect our troops. So, thank you, and thanks for all the remarks, Director Storm.
Just as a postscript too, when we did the flag raising ceremonies, it was so enjoyable going there as they stood and listened to the proclamation being read by the stars about how Veterans Day was formed. But then at the same time, all of a sudden, they says, now let's honor flag by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And the voices there were so loud that they were trying to outspeak each other. Maybe it was for the warmth that it would create. But anyhow, it was so exciting to hear all these little kids saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, to hear the whole school. You had 400 kids
Yeah,
saying it all
out there.
together. That was something special. All right, so that takes care of the first recognition. The second one is Human Rights Day proclamation. And so first we need to do is, I need a motion to approve the resolution. So,
Can I read it
or
first?
to approve the, yeah. We need someone to read the resolution so we can approve it.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the attached proclamation recognizing December 10th, 2017 as Human Rights Day.
Second.
Okay. I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the Bloomington Public Schools join our nation in recognizing December 10th, 2017 as International Human Rights Day, and whereas Bloomington recognizes the importance of acknowledging the diversity that exists in our community as we strive for autonomous participation in our community affairs, and whereas the devastating impact of prejudice can be eliminated through the efforts of our schools and city in promoting human rights awareness, and whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights asserts all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and whereas the designation of a special Human Rights Day serves to remind us that basic human rights must be made available to all people. Therefore, be it resolved, the Bloomington Board of Education, Independent School District Number 271, Bloomington, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim December 10th, 2017 as Human Rights Day, and ask all residents to continue their efforts in making Bloomington a model for fair and equal rights for all persons. Any further discussion? All those in favor of this proclamation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? And so then I'll call on Jared Leese to join me up at the podium to accept this proclamation and say a few words.
Thank you. Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, thank you so much for having me this evening. Thank you for approving the proclamation. It is something that we on the Human Rights Commission look forward to each year and participating with you in. Human Rights Day is a time for people to reflect on the meaning, importance, and the need for human rights. December 10th, 1948 was the original date chosen by the UN General Assembly to adopt and proclaim the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Declaration arose directly from the experience of the Second World War and represents the first global expression of rights of which all human beings are universally entitled. The Bloomington Human Rights Commission annually observes December 10th on the anniversary of this presentation and invites all its residents to continue to work towards making Bloomington a home and a model for fair and equal rights for all persons. While you're here, I'm also going to invite you to the Omar Bondarud Award next Monday evening. You should have received invitations already, but if not, the 4th, it'll be at Civic Plaza with a reception from 6 to 7. So again, thank you so much for this, for the time this evening.
Thank you for being here. Next, we'll recognize BEC TV, and I'll call on Tom Ringdahl, Director.
Thank you, Chair Oliva, School Board Superintendent Fujitaki. It's my honor and privilege to be here this evening to give you a quick update on some things that BEC TV, Bloomington Educational Cable Television, has been up to. And so I got two things I'm going to be talking about tonight. But first, for those who are watching at home, those gathered here who don't know who and what BEC is about, let me give you the 90-second elevator speech about what we are. BEC TV was founded in 1974. We create between 500 and 800 new TV programs each year that are presented, that highlight and bring our students and schools into the community, both on cable TV and now in the past several years on the internet as well. We have, I've been the full-time director of BEC TV for many years.
Since 1974?
And not, almost, not quite. And have the privilege of working side by side with several other part-time staff people who are all former Bloomington students and staff people, and have come onto our staff now, and most of whom are full-time people who work in the TV field somewhere else and come back to mentor and guide our current batch of students as we fulfill our mission here. We work with students from 7th grade on up as an extracurricular activity. They don't get any credit, they don't get any letter. They do this just for the love of making great television and for serving our community. And their passion is just unsurpassed. I've said several times before that that any success we have at BEC TV is due to our staff and our students who work together with us. I excel at one thing I do really, really well. I surround myself with awesome people, and that's what makes us succeed. So they get all the credit. BEC TV gets its funding through three places: through grants, donations, and income that we raise ourselves. Most of the grants come from cable TV franchise fees, so Comcast and CenturyLink, as they made their contract with the city of Bloomington to do business here in Bloomington, part of the contract says they need to put part of their profits back into the community here to support local programming, and that's where our funding comes from. So for all these years and all these tens of thousands of programs that bring the Bloomington schools out to the community, that's all come to the schools and to the community at no charge. So that's a nice place to be. That's about BEC TV. Now let me tell you about two things that we're up that I want to give you an update on. One is that we've been working hot and heavy on a high def upgrade. So it was 1 year ago this week that we lit up our high def channels on the cable systems, and so now we have our standard def and our high def channels, and have been working very hard since then to upgrade our production systems, our master control system, our system we use for this area, and now most recently our TV production truck, which we got finished off this late this summer, early this fall. We're especially excited about the truck. We sunk about $250,000, all donated money into that, in donated money, donated equipment, and are so excited that most other places that create trucks like that have it done by, there's a place that builds these things. Here is made by the sweat and blood and the tears and the excitement of our staff and our students who we've got kids out there who are 12 years old soldering cables together and understanding exactly how this works, and the passion they put into that, and having their own DNA built into this thing just creates an immense amount of pride in our program and pride in that technology. And so they don't just use it; they understand it and they know it from the ground up, and that's a great place to be with our students. We're very proud of that. So that high def upgrade is going to be continuing over the next couple of years as the funding continues to come. Each year we get some more money to do another thing. So we'll be doing the studios at Kennedy and Jefferson, upgrading those. At the BEC TV World headquarters located in Valley View, that'll be getting an upgrade, and so that'll continue happening. And we're excited to continue to find more ways to make our programming better and better, so that we can help bring the message of Bloomington schools and the exciting things that are happening in our schools and with our students out to the community and to our worldwide audience. And that's a great mission to be part of. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is something that happened just recently, just before Thanksgiving. BEC TV was part of producing the State High School League Prep Bowl semifinal football game. So there were 14 games that we produced over the course of 3 days. Now our students are used to doing like one game, and it pretty much takes us from like 3 p.m. until midnight. They're there every Friday night to produce these things. So producing 14 games in a row over 3 days is monumental. It's tough. But we were there at the invitation of the Minnesota State High School League, Channel 45, GrandStadium.tv. We all teamed together to make this happen. They do some of the legwork to get some things together, and we do all the production work on that. We're really proud of the work we do down there, and there are several things about that that are just extremely exciting to me. So one is that our students get to work down at the U.S. Bank Stadium, which is the home of the Vikings, which is where the Super Bowl is going to be. It doesn't get any bigger than that. It's a great venue to work in, and students get to work in this great venue. They're working side by side. We have our truck here, and literally, like 10 feet away from our truck are the giant Fox semis, because they're there all the while we're producing. They're setting up for the Vikings game, which comes the day after we pull out. And so our guys are there kind of rubbing shoulders with the Fox sports crew, and they've been very, very gracious. They invite our students into their big trucks to show them around, answer their questions and stuff. And then what the curious thing is that they come over to our truck. Here the top of the top guys who travel around the country doing the NFL games came over to our truck to watch our students work, to encourage them and to say, wow, what's happening here we have never seen anywhere. They're so impressed with what they see. And say, well, boy, if we only had that kind of thing when we got started, it'd be fantastic. So we have that going. And actually we had a couple of our students who impressed them enough that they were invited by Fox to come work side by side with them as they cover the Vikings game. So the synergy that happens there is really exciting. Where the programming goes out to is exciting because we've got the whole stadium there filled with fans from across the state. They're watching these 14 games. It's on the giant screen there on the side, and if you've seen, it's bigger than, if you stack my house 3 times higher, it's bigger than that. It's just a huge screen, and to see all the faces turn and watch your replay up there is pretty awesome. And there are upwards of 2,000 more monitors in U.S. Bank Stadium that our stuff is on. They're like everywhere. And so it's everywhere in the stadium. Plus, we have a huge audience watching this stream of this because we don't have the stats in from this year, but I know last year we had every county in the state was watching this. Every state in the union was watching. 50 countries around the world were watching what our students were producing. It's not just the folks around town here. It's the small town Minnesota where the entire town gathers together in the town hall to put it on a big screen and watch their team at their big chance at state. It's the grandmas and grandpas who are watching in sunny Arizona to watch their grandkids play in these things. It's the service people who are in Afghanistan and Iran and who are watching there with their service buddies, watching their little brothers and sisters at their one big chance at state. And the stakes are really high because every single game is the game they have to cover. It's not like we get to take a break sometime. So the kids are just really outstanding and working hard out there. It's a very exciting thing to be in. Another thing that was especially cool about this year is that the high school league approached us and asked us to make history. You've all seen in the pros, in the college game, where the officials have a review, or official review of the replays, so they can see whether a play was called correctly or not. This has never been done at the high school level anywhere in the country. The Minnesota State High School League, knowing the kind of production that we put out, said, could we take advantage of those 8 cameras you got all over the stadium, high and low, and do this here? And we said, yeah. We can make that work. And so they got special dispensation from the National League that they were able to do this review with the coaches. With the referees. And so teaming together with Z-Play, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. We were able to get a whole other replay system that was up in the booth that worked with the refs, so they were able to review the plays and decide whether the refs made the best call or not, and in some cases turn it over. So now we not only have a local audience within the stadium watching, a worldwide audience watching, but we're also what our kids are doing. Our kids who are as young as 12 years old, who are out there affecting the outcome of the game with their shots, and they're being able to help the refs do a great job. Of that, I'm very, very proud. And wait, it gets better, because the system they're using, called Z-Play, is a system that we have in our truck. And then, again, we were able to get another system up there for the refs that was connected to our truck. And And that's especially cool to me because it's the exact same technology that we have, that you see that Fox Sports has used, that ESPN has used, that the Timberwolves use, and the Wild use. That's in stadiums, in broadcast trucks across the world. It's the exact same technology our students are using, okay? But we had it first. And we had it first because we invented it. Because it came right out of Bloomington. Because our former students who worked with us here at BEC, we said, we need a replay system. They said, okay, we'll build one. And this is one of 3 different technologies that have gotten their start at BEC TV that are being in worldwide use. Because that's the way we're kind of wired. It's like, okay, what's out there doesn't do what we need to do, or it's not affordable. Okay, let's build it. And so it's a real sense of pride that we're able to take some technology that we need internally, and it's good enough that the rest of the world says, wow, we want to use this too. So very, very proud about that. And the final thing I want to talk about, and I'll show you a short video and then we'll be done, is that our kids aren't just there producing this, which is enough. We invite in high schools from across the state. Some of them have good TV programs, some of them have no TV program at all. And they shadow our kids who are doing the production for the games. And then our kids show them how to run all the equipment and how to make it all happen. And then our kids step back and let them do it. And the reaction we've gotten and the feedback from these schools, big and small from across the state, has just been tremendous. That they have never had an opportunity to do anything like this. And it just opens their whole imagination to what they could be doing in their own communities. I'm going to show you a quick video, then we'll wrap things up. You have to excuse if I look like I'm a little bit asleep on this. This was we shot this like at the end of being down there for 5 days or 20-hour days, so it was a long haul. The home of the Vikings. We're where the Super Bowl is happening. I mean, this is as big as it gets. In 2010, I met with Tom Lapping from Grand City, and they were planning on doing some coverage of the Prep Bowl, and they had done some experimenting with some really big format things with some really good equipment. And then, as things changed, they were going to reformat that some. They cut back quite a bit.
BEC, we do a lot where we train kids with kids that want to learn different TV stuff, and we have kids from 7th grade all the way up to college and beyond. So Grand Stadium and Channel 45 got in contact with Tom and said, hey, we're going to bring in kids who've never done a live TV production before, and you guys do this, and this is what we want. Is that something you'd be willing to do?
I said, yes, we're very interested in doing it, but not in a small way. If we're going to do this, I really want to do this big. I want this to be something that makes a huge impact on the students we have in Bloomington, on the students who are on the field, on their families all across Minnesota, and the people watching everywhere. I want this to be an event. I want this to be bigger than what they expect. Their students are mentoring other kids from around the state who are coming in. We have kids as young as 12 who are working with high school seniors and teaching them the techniques of quality television.
Well, first thing I did is when I came here, I brought my stuff, and then Tom showed us around. Then I trained people on Z-Play. I did most of that for 2 games. And then 3rd game, I did Z-Play. 4th game, then I was doing audio. My favorite part of the day was probably teaching people Z-Play.
To be able to teach you and then be able to teach the new people who were me. Basically, at one point in time. It makes BEC like a really good organization.
It's wonderful to watch where their kids shadow our kids teach them, and then the roles flip. And then their kids are doing it, and our kids are watching and just helping and step back and step back and step back and tell those guys are just doing it on their own. You know, they don't mind the fact that they're not getting the glory spot, but they're helping other people succeed. And the cool thing is that some of these programs, some of these schools have really small or don't have programs at all. They come here and they see what could be done. It gives them the idea of possibilities and the way that opens their mind, and they go back to their own community, and now they're making television in their community, and they're expanding the way that they can outreach and bring schools into the community and bring the community together. And that is rippling out throughout the state because of the things that our Bloomington students are doing here at this place. So overall, this whole thing, this whole U.S. Bank Stadium thing is an incredible amount of work. And the students work really hard and the staff works really hard, but it's an incredible payoff that just ripples everywhere. And we're really proud to be part of that. It's doing things like that. It's doing things like creating the truck. It's doing things like working with students who are so excited. It's the chance to work with, I think we have 4 kids in our program now who are second generation techs. So I work with their parents and now I get to work with them. That kind of stuff, that combined with a super supportive administration and a great community makes it so after 35, 37, whatever years, I still love coming to work every day. So thank you for your part in making it all happen.
Thank you.
An invitation. We do have our truck outside tonight, so after you're done with the board meeting, come on out and take a look. Thanks.
Mr. Chair.
I can see why you're excited. We had a couple of questions
Well,
or comments.
it's just too bad we can't find somebody with a little enthusiasm for their job. I think kids are so lucky to have him as their mentor.
Yes.
And it is intergenerational too, because my son Andrew started when he was in 7th grade, when Tom was a lot younger, and worked on up. That was back in the old boardroom where the kids sat around with the TV cameras and did it. And they had to be very quiet during the board meeting while they were taking the pictures, because if they would accidentally fall off a chair or something like that, you know, it was pretty disruptive. But in salute to Tom in terms of his years of service, he's very appropriate on this night of veteran recognition that he be singled out also because of his time and talents that he's put in, and a lot of times it's at night. I remember doing some play-by-play and announcing of sporting events, and the truck that we had back then was just the bare minimum, and it was just because there was duct tape available and various wires and everything else that they could connect everything and make it work. And now it's just, when I go back in there at a football game or something like that, just to kind of be sentimental, I can't even get in there because there's so many young kids doing so many things, they just push the old guy out. And I feel bad about that, but I think there's still hope for us. When my life here at the school board gets done, I still want to run a camera.
We will make room for you, Mr. Storm.
All right. Thank you again. Yeah, our Bloomington students are lucky to have someone like Tom Ringdahl.
For sure.
To mentor them. And that will now bring us, I believe, to board student representative reports. We have Ethan and Jackson. Ethan, your name's on my list first, so you can go first today.
All right. So this week at Kennedy and Jefferson, we have finals. The kids at Kennedy definitely are most excited about the new schedule. The next 2 days are split between 3 classes for each day. Each are 80 minutes long, and the school day will end at 12:50. On November 11th, Bloomington Public School partnered with the Closet of Hope and helped distribute 650 articles of winter clothing. On November 10th, we honored our veterans with a ceremonial flag raising. We also had a college fair on November 8th. This was an amazing opportunity for my fellow classmates to reach out to schools of interest and ask them questions and give them an idea of what the college process will be. We've had I think this week or last week was like the first official week of winter sports being underway, and we are extremely excited for what our teams and clubs have in store. On December 1st, there is a toy distribution to families in need. If needed, you can register to receive toys at Eventbrite, which is online. And then we also have a holiday show. The choir is putting on a holiday show on December 7th through the 9th at 7 p.m. And I know a lot of people in the choir, and they say that it's going to be amazing. So try to head out there. And that's all that I have. Jackson.
This past month at Jefferson High School junior Bella Fawn will compete at the National Speech and Debate Association 2018 National Tournament next summer. Bella Fawn qualified at the district tournament earlier this month, placing first in the House category for congressional debate. Another junior, Amelia Miller, was named third alternate. This will mark the 7th consecutive year a Bloomington student has qualified for the national tournament in congressional debate. That's a good sign. Jefferson Theater Company performed The Little Princess this month. So far, I haven't heard any bad reviews of it. Moving into sports, the Bloomington Jets adapted soccer made it to the state tournament for their 17th time. Now that it's moving into winter, the hockey season has just begun for the Jefferson boys and girls. See the boys' first home game against Rosemont at 7 p.m. I'm looking forward to a successful season for both hockey teams. We are now closing into trimester 1, so that means finals. To help freshmen with their first experience with these big tests, the Jefferson Pathfinders have made a Coco Cram session for studying for these upcoming big tests. As Ethan said, the new schedule for finals is exciting for a lot of kids, for they can't wait to get out early on half days. That's what's been happening at Jefferson this month. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now, I won't ask the age of our audience members, but I don't believe that you are high school seniors here for your government class, so we'll move on to the next thing. Is there anyone who would like to address the school board, an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Seeing no one come forward, that'll conclude our first section of the agenda. Our 2 student board representatives have finals in the morning, so at this point, we'll thank them for coming and sharing with us this evening, and you are free to leave and go study and get a good night's sleep for your test in the morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you're finished studying early, you can catch the rest of the meeting on BEC TV.
In high definition.
In high definition now.
We all go for
That'll bring us to the Part A of our agenda. Someone like to move Part A.
So moved.
Second.
Part A includes board business, minutes, personnel actions, field trip approvals, grants, contracts, and agreements, and finance. All those, or any discussion about Part A? All those in favor of approving Part A as stated in tonight's board packet, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that'll bring us down to Part B on the agenda. And first up, we'll call on Assistant Superintendent Eric Melby. We'll be talking about fees.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271, excuse me, approves the graduation fee of $60 per student for Kennedy and Jefferson High Schools for the 2017-18 school year.
Second.
Chair Oliva, Superintendent Fujitaki, members of the board, thanks for the opportunity to come before you tonight and bring a number of resolutions regarding fees for this year and next year. This one is for graduation fee. I've come before you the last couple of years and shared these things. Happy to answer questions. It's not a change from prior last couple of years at least. And as you probably already know, the fees are not charged for graduation caps, gowns, or diplomas. The money actually goes towards facility rental and transportation.
Any questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next one.
Mr. Chair, be it resolved that the School Board of Independence District School 271 approves student parking fees for Kennedy High School and Jefferson High School at $270 per year, $90 per trimester for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
Thank you again. This is another unchanged fee from last year. There's elasticity around the demand of the fee for parking, and we don't believe that raising it will necessarily change our bottom line at the end of the day. Students who are interested in taking PSEO and college classes off campus benefit from the parking structure. We do offer different pricing options for those students when they're not there all day. Daily passes are available. Buildings will prorate fees when necessary and work with families in situations where maybe they can't afford the parking fee for various circumstances. I can also tell you that the rates we charge are kind of middle of the road with our neighboring districts. We're not the highest, we're not the lowest, we're pretty much in the middle. And the fees go to security and maintenance in the parking lots.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, what you're talking about, the students that are taking the PSEO and Korean College Academy classes, they'll have a reduced rate. Is that something that we're just starting this year, or is this something that's already been in place?
They've had structures in place in the past, and then we had some students bring the issue up again this year because they were considering a change this year, and we're sticking with having lower prices for those students.
Okay, are those, the price structures are based on like percentage of the school day that they're using that spot or something, or how does that whole thing work?
Half price.
It's just half price?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because I remember hearing from some students that was a concern, that they felt they shouldn't be paying for the full rate when they're only there for two or three classes. So that's
Right.
good that we're listening to our students and changing our fees accordingly, so thank you.
And it was something that came up last year with the
Yeah,
student advisory.
well, thanks.
Yep.
We need to vote on this one. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And that'll bring us to instrument.
Mr. Chair, be resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approve student instrument user fees for the 2018-19 school year.
Second?
Again, this is a unchanged fee. Don't believe that changing the fee will benefit students or the program in any significant way. The fees are used for high school uniforms and instrument replacement, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Go to athletic fees, 2018-19.
Resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the student athletic fees for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
The athletic fees remain the same. There's one change to the proposal this year brought forward by the ADs, and that's to add a 4-day strength and conditioning program. In the past, we've had 2-day, 3-day, and 5-day, not a 4-day option, so they are adding a 4-day strength and conditioning in the summertime option.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that'll bring us to activity fees.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves student activity fees for the 2018-2019 school year.
Second?
A lot of commentary on this one. It's again maintaining the same fee structure that we've had and keeping it for next year.
Any questions? All those in favor,
Just
please.
a question. Are there new activities that come up periodically, or requests for new activities, clubs, miscellaneous things like that?
Yeah.
And then it's left up to the building or whatever to determine?
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Just saw down here that there's a cap. I don't know if I knew that when I signed my kids up for activities. I'll have to keep that in mind next year. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and I believe that brings us to the last one, admission fees.
Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District approves School District 271 approves student adult admission fees for activities for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
And for the final one, again, not much commentary. We're just recommending the continued fee structure that we've had the last year.
How has that adult year-long pass program worked?
Well, I'd like to give you a long answer to that, telling you how great it is, but I don't really have that data with me, so I could certainly ask the ADs to give me that information and share it back to the board through a written communication or something at a future board meeting.
I mean, with the senior citizen year-long student and all that, it's an interesting project. I know other districts have done it too, and so it's just curious how helpful it is. Because a lot of the events, it's the parents winding up going there and paying for it. And so if there's some arrangement to be worked out like that, that really benefits.
I'll ask for some follow-up information, Director Sorum.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? I just want to note that part of putting this on tonight's agenda was that our student reps were here, and they did have opportunities to see all of this information before, and, you know, kind of like us, they didn't have a whole lot to say. You aren't going to raise our rates, perfect. So, thanks. Thank you for being here. And I believe next up is our Insurance Committee report. Our Executive Director of Human Resources, Mary Burrows, will give us that update.
Chair Oliva, Superintendent Fujitaki, and members of the board, I'm here to give you a brief update on the Insurance Committee. We have 5 meetings scheduled this year. We did have our first meeting October 11th. In that meeting, we reviewed the planned performance of the previous year, and we ended very well. We did have increase in claims last year to prior year, but our reserve is mature and so can absorb fluctuations like that year to year, so I feel that we're still in really good standing. So that was the good news of the meeting. It was all good news. We didn't have any bad news. The group did agree to extend the identity force protection that we offered after the data breach for an additional 3 years. More information will be coming out on that closer to the renewal of that, which will happen about January, February. So look for more information to come out then. Other than that, our next meeting is January 10th, and that's really my report.
Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you for being here. And that brings us now to policy review, revised policy 701.3, fund balance.
Mr. Chair?
Chair.
Go ahead.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves revised policy 701.3, fund balance, retroactive to July 1, 2016.
Second.
I'll invite Rod Zifkovich, our Executive Director of Finance and Support Services, to give us an update or let us know what's going on with this one.
Chair Oliva, Superintendent Fujitaki, board members. This is a process as we start getting down to the end of the 16-17 school year. The audit will come to the board on December 11th. This was just what we do is every year look at our policies that deal with different parts of the organization. With working with the auditors during their review, the recommendation was to change a section of this policy to include the verbiage that they included within.
Any questions?
No, it is interesting to note that the section in question is the priority of spending. In the past, it would leave it pretty much open, and so now this is identifying priorities of the funds, which is wordy, but it's well said.
Yeah, it's basically the looking at overall what has been practiced and what normally is practiced within school districts themselves.
Anybody else? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
And- Thank you. And number 4 is preparation for World's Best Workforce Annual Meeting. Turn it over to Superintendent.
At our last school board meeting on November 13th, I reported on the school board's retreat that was held on November 6th. I shared how the school board at this retreat and administration prepped for the state law mandated World's Best Workforce meeting. This year's annual meeting will be held on December 11th at 6 p.m. here in this room. As part of the retreat's preparation process, the school board studied one of the major responsibilities, and that is to establish and keep current a strategic plan. The last time the strategic plan was refreshed was over almost 3 years ago. And as our district progresses toward our vision becomes more in focus. Therefore, the board discussed sharpening our vision language. Further, as our vision becomes sharper, so do our strategic directions that move us toward our vision. Therefore, the board and administration also discussed more focused strategic direction language. As reported at our last meeting, administration has continued to study proposals to refresh and update our strategic plan's vision and strategic directions. Therefore, administration plans to present for board action language to refresh our strategic plan at the December 11th World Best Workforce meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you. That'll bring us now to board member reports. Who'd like to start us off?
So, sure, last Monday, our Bloomington Student Advisory Committee, they had a meeting, and it was led by our 2 student reps. And just some of the topics that they went over. By our policy, it is up to the student school board, it is up to the student advisory committee to select the next student board representative. So they talked at length about what they think that process should look like, and they discussed about, well, should it be a school-wide election? Should it be the student governments that pick? Should it be the principals that pick? Or should it be the BSAC that picks? So they're kind of talking about the pros and cons of each of those, and we're charging them with a task to come up with a final answer by January so that we can go and get the process in place, and that so we can have, by May, we can have the names of our next year's reps. So they're in the process of doing that. And they also talked about every year that the BSAC, they kind of do a project. And last year they looked at, parking fees and class sizes and the whole flex space and that. And this year they really wanted to focus on uniting the 2 high schools together and to embody the whole one Bloomington. And so they want to have a couple different activities. They were talking about some ideas of like maybe a talent show or like a field day or those type of things where they can try to unite the 2 schools, which I think is a great idea. So they're really going to try to make that their focus this year and have at least 2 events. So probably like maybe in March and in May, and that'll be their project for the year. And that's all I have for my report.
Excellent. Dr. Storm.
The Community Services Advisory Committee met, and it was really interesting as we started talking about all the various programs that we have. Sometimes we concentrate on the K-12 so much that we kind of forget about the preschool and the adult learners, of which there's a significant amount of participation in our district, and not only from Bloomington, but from all over. So as we started talking about it, including the activity center usage and building usages for a variety of programs and projects from around the cities, it was just all the things that go into all of those types of things. It just added to the dimension that we have here in Bloomington of providing so many services and so many educational opportunities for so many people. The old concept of from cradle to grave, kind of still applies, but we don't like to think of it that way. But we just do offer an awful lot, and so it was a good review, and it was a good active community advisory committee meeting. Especially since it was one of the first ones where it was just Bloomington, before it was Bloomington Richfield. So now that we're just Bloomington, well, then actually our focus is a little bit different, but we made it through okay, just on our own, I'm glad to say. Another session, we had the TIES annual meeting that the superintendent and I attended, And just as a reminder, we've been involved with ties for over 50 years as one of the charter members, and it's just the evolution of ties from what it was, where we are major contributors, to what it is now, has seemed to be not quite clear. And so there's going to be some additional information available as to the future of ties, if I may use that term, that we've gone off on our own and done programs and software programs and been very successful in that. And so it's just a matter now of finalizing some of the details about what ties is really going to do for everybody else. It's a big, beautiful building out there on Snelling and Larpenteur that would be nice to somehow us to get hold of. I don't know, Rod, if you wanted to check into that, to lease it out to everybody else. But anyhow, that concludes my reports.
Most of my committee meetings always seem to occur right after the board meeting. But coming up, I have Education Foundation of Bloomington. I have Bloomington Area for Youth, of which Mr. Tom Ringdahl is the leader of that group also. And Companies to Classrooms coming up next week.
Excellent.
The Bloomington Advocacy Council met, and we had great conversation because our elected representatives and senators were there from everybody that represents Bloomington. So it was a great conversation, great meeting. Our legislative committee also met, but I will let Director Carmen talk about that. She can give us an update there since she's the chair of that group. I also attended a PTA meeting at Normandale Hills and had a chance to go to the Kennedy Show Choir's dinner last Friday night. You know, once again, we just have such talented students in this district that it's always fun to go to all those events. And then I had a chance last week, when there was only 2 days of school, I managed to make it to Indian Mounds to a school visit, and primarily got to visit a kindergarten classroom. So it was great. Thank you.
Dr. Corman?
Me? Okay. I'm writing down because it seems like it's a long list. But well, I also attended the Bloomington Advisory Council. Very interesting conversation, like Director Steigaf mentioned. You know, we have our legislators present that day, and the members of the committee were able to make questions and, you know, just kind of raise some concerns regarding, you know, the future of our public schools and what the next session would look like. So that was an interesting conversation. And then our legislative committee met pretty much to kind of do a reflection about our Bloomington Advisory Council, and, you know, how things went during this past year. We kind of talk about the selection process when we first started this council, and we talked about membership and the future of, you know, that group and what the membership is going to look like, and also talked about defining specific roles for that council, for the advisory council. So we'll be bringing that information to you really soon. Then I attended the legislative committee for Association of Metropolitan School Districts, and we went over the legislative platform for this year, and that will be what will come in the next agenda this coming Friday at the AMSD Board of Directors meeting. So that will be, you know, something that you will also be able to see once it is approved, which I'm thinking it will be approved this Friday. I also attended the MSBA pre-delegate assembly, where we, you know, our group had the opportunity with Director Bartolotta and also with Bernstrom to go over a whole bunch of resolutions, and we have very interesting conversations, and mostly there were some specific conversations regarding testing and our ELL students in Minnesota. So That is one topic that I think we really need to pay attention to, because a lot of our school leaders are talking about, ELL students, what kind of testing are they taking, and this is not just a conversation that is taking place in Minnesota, but also at the national level, and that it's coming from the kind of questions that we still have about ESSA, about the Every Student Success Act, and how this is going to work, how the plan is going to work in Minnesota this coming year and in the future years. So everybody's paying attention to that, and same as well as the ESSA law. And then we'll be meeting again this coming Friday and Saturday at the MSBA Delegate Assembly. And that is all.
For me, I did the Legislative Committee and the Advocacy Council, or Advocacy Committee meetings as well. And this evening, we met, Tom and I met with the middle school youth advisory, or student advisory council members, and Karen Qualley and Jane Lescarbeau led a conversation about personalized learning, got some good feedback from the students. And then after that, the conversation turned to school start times, because I know that's a topic that comes up every single year. Somebody sends in because they read something in the Star Tribune or Pioneer Press or CNN or every year, and parents and students have different opinions. So we started asking the students what they thought about it, and Tom and I asked Tom, and we were both extremely surprised at the results. There was 9 students there. 4 of them said, keep the times how they are now. 4 of them said, start later, and 1 of them said, start earlier. So we didn't even have a tiebreaker. It was 4, 4, and 1. And I honestly was not expecting that at all. We thought, it would probably be 7 or 8 of them that would say start later. They had some great commentary. Some of them, a couple of them said, well, I have to walk to school, and when we have the time change, it's really dark in the morning. So if we started later, he's like, sometimes when I walk to school now, the sun's barely even coming up. So if we could start a half hour later, there would be daylight. One of them had started to kind of quote some of the articles that talked about car crashes and people being too tired in the morning. Someone recommended that we flip the elementary and middle school start times, because she said, what elementary school kid doesn't have a ton of energy anyways, and the parents can make them go to bed early, and so they should go to school at 8, and we should go to school at 9. So that was interesting. And then we did talk about bus behavior, and if there ever were a time where, well, what if in order to get everybody, to go at the same time, you had to share the bus? And they said, well, behavior on the bus isn't really that good, but, you probably wouldn't have seniors picking on kindergartners. That would just be weird. So that wasn't a huge concern of theirs. I just came back from a trip to Cuba. I was there Saturday to this last Saturday. And I had mentioned, well, what they do is they go to school, everybody starts at 8, and they go till about noon or 12:30, and then they take their lunch, and then they come back at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they're there until 4. So, what would you think about that? What if we extended the day, and so, you get more time in the middle? And they thought, well, they said maybe going a little bit longer might be okay. But then one of the concerns they brought up is they said, the problem is in middle school, we don't get recess. So you just have to sit there in the lunchroom and they didn't want to do that. But if they could go home, or if they could have, be able to go outside, then they're all for it. We talked about the wellness policy. And one of the things in the wellness policy talked about, do you have enough time to eat? Do you have, this and that? And one girl's like, yeah, all we have in our vending machines now is water. But none of them remembered a time when you could bring cupcakes to school for birthdays. So to them, they didn't care. And I'm like, that used to be the best part of elementary school, is kids would bring cookies and cake to school, but they didn't know, so for them, it's a non-issue. But they did say, a lot of them did say that the way that lunch is set up now, because I know in the wellness policy, it says you have to give them adequate time for lunch. He said the way that it works now, we don't. Depending on where you end up in the lunch line, when they call your table, like you only have 3 minutes to eat. So I told them that I would pass that information along, and we could, our administration will look into it because we take their concerns seriously. And then the final, that took us to the end of our hour, and one young lady said, well, this is off the topics we were talking about, but, one last thing. She said we had our, what was it, anti-bullying, was it like day or week or something? I don't know. They had an anti-bullying campaign or whatever, their school. But she said, but it focused, all the focus was on the victim and what you should do if you're a victim of bullying and how you recognize it. And she said, well, we need to spend more time on talking about from the perspective of the bully to get them to just not be a bully. Because she said if we could just handle it from that end, then we wouldn't have to worry about telling the victims what to do, because we wouldn't have bullies in the first place. So I said I'll also pass that along for administration when we were doing our anti-bullying campaigns, that to make sure that they address it from both sides, because maybe you're a bully because you're bullied at home. And so maybe part of the issue is we need to, instead of always being punitive, figure out, okay, is there some issue going on that we can work with the student? So that was tonight's meeting, and it was fantastic, and I'm going to miss doing them. But that concludes my report. Superintendent.
Great, thank you. I have, my report is are three requests. First is administration requests a motion to establish the World's Best Workforce Annual Meeting on Monday, December 11th at 6 p.m. here in the Arlene Bush Boardroom.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Here's an interesting one. Administration requests a motion to cancel the board's scheduled meeting on the fourth Monday of December, which is December 25th.
Oh, I don't know. I think we need discussion.
Any discussion?
Hey, Jim, are you looking for an excuse to get away for a little while?
right.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Administration requests a motion to establish the organizational study session of the board on Tuesday, January 2nd at 7 p.m.
So moved.
January 2nd, that's a Tuesday?
Tuesday, January 2nd.
January 2nd, yeah.
Would the board consider a 6 p.m. start time for this thing on that date?
Consider it.
I'll abstain from the vote. I won't be there, so I'll let you all decide.
Well,
I won't be there January 2nd.
Yeah, I think,
yeah, you have to
Am
be
I there
there.
on January 2nd?
I think you are.
I am.
Doesn't he have to be there till the 8th or whenever?
Do I have to
the
be there until
oath
the
of
next
office?
person comes out?
Oh, you'll be gone.
Well, technically, the board member takes office on the 1st, but they don't get sworn in until whenever you have your official meeting.
So am I sworn out before they get sworn? I don't know, do I get paid for the January 2nd? I guess that determines.
You're sworn at, maybe, but not
You're sworn at, yeah.
You should be done.
Tim and I will swear at you if you want us to.
So what do you all think?
In and
6
out.
o'clock?
6 o'clock
6
is fine.
o'clock's fine.
Is that okay? Work for you?
Everyone's off school anyway.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I will also aye. Okay.
Great, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Is there any other business come before the board this evening? Hearing none, we will adjourn.
I forgot how it was.
Aye.